game, who's not in the game, and the ones we had earlier kind of uncovered weren't necessarily giving us the results we want. That's led me down a little bit of a different path here now with regards to lineups and pace of play and how we're going to do things, and I'm hopeful that this last tinkering might help. I don't know. I wish I Bob Huggins had a quote a few days ago. You can't come up with an offense where someone doesn't have to pass to somebody. You know, they've gone through something very similar. So we're going to keep working through it. We're going to keep managing it as best we can. And hopefully we've done it. We have to find a way to continue to do it consistently in order to compete in this conference.
Louisville head coach Paul Weir is with us. One other quick philosophical question, because you mentioned this also at your press conference, that maybe the zone doesn't always lend itself to the type of intensity that the man that you had been playing up to that point does in terms of the way that you defend both full court and half court. Does that mean that you could be transitioning into a phase where we're looking at a hybrid and it's not zone for 40 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually, ironically, what I was saying, and maybe I spoke differently, but my intention was to say there really is no difference. If we can come up with 42 deflections against Nevada playing 40 minutes of zone, there's no reason why we should come up with 31 against Colorado State playing, the same amount of zone. So I think, for me, the point to everybody was, the question might be man or zone, but for me, it was more about just trying to create more defensive urgency and intensity. And there are times maybe a zone traditionally, it may take away a little bit from that. So, we've got to find the best defensive recipe to succeed. Will that involve moving things around? Of course it will. I felt at the time we put in the zone, we really needed more time to continue to practice it, to make it more comprehensive. It still had our two best defensive games of the year on its resume, and I wanted to continue to probe with it and work with it. But now that we've kind of gone through this next little cycle, we obviously have to make some adjustments to it, and not just it, but our defense overall, to give ourselves the best chance to win.
Louisville head coach Paul Weir with us. Under Coach Chiat, Wyoming was a very slow, methodical team that beat you in the half court. Coach Edwards sped up their pace, but with all the attrition to their roster and the limited number of available bodies that he has, they have slowed it back down here in recent games. What have you seen from them on tape here recently? And obviously they have a terrific new big, and then Justin James is spectacular guard.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you watch them, it's not necessarily fun to watch. You might be thinking to yourself, okay, maybe this team isn't doing so well, but I mean, they led UNLV for well over half the game into the second half. They're beginning in their last game against Utah State. They were leading almost the entire first half until just at the end. They've beaten South Carolina. Like, they're a competitive basketball team. It's not a team that, maybe the record would indicate that it's just, the season's over for them. They've found a way to compete, and obviously that's involved changing their style. They slow it down. They make it very methodical. They get back in the half court and try and make it a long possession there, walk the ball up on offense and try and make it a long possession there, and just try and get themselves to the most competitive place they can in the game. So they have some nice pieces, not only with James. You mentioned Hunter Thompson, who's a terrific player, has had some great games so far, a big man that can really stretch the floor, make some threes, but also score around the basket. And they've got some other just unique pieces that are very capable. Banks is a very athletic little guard, and we've had issues with athletic guards this year, and he's a very explosive guard, just as far as his penetration, his quickness in transition, and those are guys that have kind of bothered us. So we have our work cut out for us. We spent 3 days on just preparing for these guys and doing everything we can to give ourselves the best chance to win, and hopefully we'll be able to go out with a good game plan and execute it.
They also have a pair of freshmen in Young at 6'9" and Taylor at 6'6", who can both step out and knock down the three. And I do remember something you said about the San Diego State game. You said, we can live with the shot chart from the first half. Yes, the 2-point field goal percentage was higher than what we'd want, but we don't mind that shot chart. It was the 3-pointers they got early in the second half that you felt really changed the flow of the game. Is there a fear that they could get comfortable at the 3-point line tonight?
I think that's a great point about San Diego State, but to me what made that even more emphatic was that it was Watson, and we went into the game saying we've got to contain Watson, and for him to get loose for those 3 threes at the beginning of the second half, I thought was really detrimental to our ability to try and win the basketball game. So I think for us in this game, James has pretty much priority 1A, B, and C. Thompson becomes 2A, B, and C. And if those guys, obviously we're going to guard them, we're going to contest them, we're going to do the best we can. But I thought that beginning of the second half, it was more Watson really getting loose that bothered me as much as it was the threes in general. And I think we've made this game plan, and for this game, hopefully a little bit more comprehensive with regards to those particular guys we're really intending to stop.
Final question. James is so good off the dribble. How quickly do you send another guy at him if he gets by the first?
You know, what makes him so terrific is his ability to draw fouls. He's the #1 player in the country at getting to the free throw line. He's a terrific actor. He makes it look like when there's things that quite aren't there. And that's no, indictment on officials or anything like that. He's just good. He's very gifted. He's very gifted at drawing contact. He's used to having the ball in his hands a lot. He's had an incredible career. He's got exceptional amount of experience, games under his belt, reps under his belt. I mean, he's a veteran. He's like playing an old man that just knows all the tricks of the trade. So, we've got to make sure we do a good job on him. We've got several different plans in place for him, and we're going to kind of rotate through them and kind of see what works. And then when one doesn't, maybe we'll go to another one. And we're just going to do everything we can to hopefully limit his ability to really burst out in the game.
If I may, one follow-up on the flip side. If they do everything they can to take Anthony Mathis out of the game, do you have some more tricks up your sleeve?
Yeah, I mean, I think all along we've had good versatility offensively. Anthony's a terrific offensive player, but we've got to find a way to be able to still get the ball inside regardless of that. We've still got to find a way to make sure we don't turn the basketball over and we spread the ball around. And hopefully at some point, if McQuatch can kind of find a rhythm, I know we've been all kind of seeing a game or two here and there and hope he kind of turns the corner. But if we can kind of get him going at some point to the level he was playing at last year, to go with a Vance and get Keith going to an extent, I think we've got the pieces to hopefully still put together a good offensive team. For us, it's about finding that right defensive recipe. I think offensively, at some point, those guys hopefully will turn the corner. I think we've put them in really good spots. I think they've gotten good looks at the rim. I think we've gotten good shots offensively. We're just going to need the defense to be able to come through in those moments or those times where some of those guys aren't having great nights.
All right, Coach Weir, best of luck against Wyoming tonight.
Thanks so much, Rob.
Lobo head coach Paul Weir, our guest. We're back after this. Lobo basketball from Learfield.
Welcome back inside Dreamstyle Arena, the pit. Your Lobo basketball pregame show continues live. UNM Athletics and Valley Fence, proud partners. They're trying to end hunger throughout New Mexico. For every block during Lobo men's basketball, every sack during Lobo football, every strikeout by a Lobo pitcher in baseball, Valley Fence donates to the Roadrunner Food Bank. New Mexico hosting longtime rival Wyoming as the two teams match up here this afternoon, both looking for a key victory. The Lobos coming off 3 consecutive Mountain West Conference losses at 2-3 in league, and Wyoming 0-4 in conference play, entering action here this afternoon. Welcome back, my broadcast partner, one of the Lobos' all-time greats, Hunter Green. And Hunter, let's get to your keys to victory today. This Wyoming team is thin. They'll basically play just 7 guys. If they do need to, they have 2 walk-ons, one a former student manager, Casey Henry, who has been activated and is available, and a former football player, Hayes Fornstrom, who's also available. Those 2 guys would be numbers 8 and 9 if needed, but they're thin. We're here at altitude in Albuquerque. They play at altitude, but they don't have much of a bench. The Lobos are deeper, even without Kareem Ezzedine. We know that Kareem has moved on to a professional career now in Europe. He has left the Lobo basketball program. So what do you think New Mexico needs to do against a Cowboy team shorthanded that really has tried to slow the game down over their last few contests?
Well, real quick, I think, what team's going to show up in terms of New Mexico? Because we've seen 2 teams so far. We've seen a team that could beat Nevada, number 5, and then we see a team that can lose 3 in a row. That's the question number 1. Question number 2 is, how will Kareem Ezzedine's absence affect this team? I mean, it's either going to be positive or negative, right? I mean, guys are either going to band together or they're just going to be exposed in terms of more issues around the team. So I think those are the questions. But keeping it simple tonight, this afternoon, is really what New Mexico needs to do. And that's playing defense. Forget about how many players Wyoming has. New Mexico needs to bring the effort defensively, whether it's zone or man-to-man. and of course, keep an eye on Jesse James. We know that this kid, Justin James, this kid is off the bounce, gets to the rim, very athletic, likes to get to the free throw line. He will shoot the three, shoots it, but he's not very good at it. He doesn't shoot it well. So maybe you force him to shoot the three, take that part of the, take the dribble drive part of his game away, and let him shoot that three ball. Wyoming likes to play a lot of zone. New Mexico offensively should try to pound it inside, get some inside-out working going, and hope that McQuatch Malawach can get his game going off the dribble, because that's where they will have a challenge in guard and matching up with McQuatch Malawach.
We talked about McQuatch. He's coming off a really rough shooting night. 0 for 8, 0 for 6 from 3 at San Diego State back on Tuesday. Check this out. Though he struggled with turnovers over the first 4 league games, 10 turnovers, 6 assists. That's an inverted assist-to-turnover ratio. But during that time, he shot the ball pretty well, Hunter. 47% floor, 45% from 3, and averaged almost 13 points a game over the first 4 in league play. Not all of them wins, but if he can shoot it well and not turn it over when he puts it on the ground, that would go a long way toward a Lobo win. From UNM Hospitals to UNM Standable Regional Medical Center and clinics throughout the state, UNM Health providers put you and your family's health first. UNM Health, here when you need us. Let's take a pause. We come back after this timeout. You're listening to Lobo Basketball from Learfield.
This is the Lobo postgame show. Once again, Robert Portnoy.
83-53 the final. New Mexico blows out Wyoming in Dream-style arena the pit. You're locked into the Lobo basketball postgame report. You know what I'm craving after today's victory? Some fresh strawberries and raspberries dipped in chocolate, and some New Mexican flavored candy from the Candy Lady. The Candy Lady offers the best candy in New Mexico. To celebrate today's win, make sure you swing by the Candy Lady in Albuquerque's Old Town. They're home for almost 4 decades. Perfect when you need that perfect treat, you're in the mood for something sweet, or you need that perfect gift. The Lobos and the Candy Lady. New Mexico traditions for over 30 years. Lobos 83, Wyoming 53 is your final. New Mexico shoots 50% in the first half, shoots 48% from the floor for the game. The Lobos shoot 33% from distance, make 9 of 27, and 78% from the foul line in the 30-point blowout win over the Cowboys. Let's pause briefly, 10 seconds for station ID on the Lobo Radio Network. 83-53 is the final. The Lobos knock off Wyoming. New Mexico with the victory evens its record at an even 9-9 overall, and the Lobos are now 3-3 in conference play. The Lobos tonight had 3 Everguard Roofing and Everguard Solar Slam Dunks. That means $30 to All Faiths. All Faiths serves over 2,500 children and their families every year. They teach them how to prevent abuse. They guide them as they recover from it. Help us give children back their childhood. Learn more by visiting allfaiths.org. We step aside. Lobos 83, Wyoming 53 is the final. Lobo basketball from Learfield. We're back inside the legendary pit, Dream-style arena. Lobos 83, Wyoming 53, final. New Mexico snaps its 3-game skid with a convincing victory over the visiting Pokes. All right, it's time to select our State Farm Insurance assist of the game. And when teammates help each other out, great plays happen like this. Weak side Karam to Jackson. Jackson fires it up the near right wing into the front court to Malawach. Screens from McQuatch. McQuatch down the lane line. Turns, throws it out to Vance. Straight on 3 on the way. Oh, yes, indeed. Great look by McQuatch and a finish by Vance. That's what McQuatch needs to do. That's your State Farm Insurance assist of the game. Presented by State Farm. Get an agent that gets you. Lobos 83, Wyoming 53 is the final. It's our privilege now to welcome in Lobo head coach Paul Weir for post-game coach's comments. Coach Weir, congratulations. A nice, convincing win over Wyoming. Just give us your overall thoughts to start out. I know there were several things that you were focused in on tonight, and you did some of them well.
Yeah, I thought our defensive energy was good. We're trying to play at a little bit of a faster pace offensively, which I thought serviced us well at times, and then other times maybe not so much. But I think overall it was our defense
defense that carried us tonight, just our overall energy level. We were over 40 deflections, which is usually a good thing. It's a sign of loose balls and 50-50 rebounds and just doing the kind of things on defense, getting our hands on things and feet on things that we need. So fortunately tonight, especially at that early middle part of the second half where we kind of ran into some offensive lulls there where we were kind of turning it over for a while, we were kind of getting stops at the other end where those didn't kind of turn into runs. So it was a good defensive effort for us tonight for sure.
Coach, if there was one negative, it might have been the number of turnovers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard to keep. I mean, you get up by 25.
No, but it wasn't just there. We were 8 at half. You know what I mean? I wish I could say we were just playing around at the end. I told Rob in the pregame, Huggins, I heard him speaking, saying, they have the same issue, and they're turning the thing all over the place. And I saw a quote by him. But, he said, look, you have to pass the ball to a teammate at some point. There's only so many things you can think of. So I'm thinking of everything. We're thinking of everything. I'm going to continue to try and figure something out where we have ball control. When you turn over the ball 9 times against Nevada to win a game, we're obviously capable. So maybe it's not all technical and tactical. Maybe it's just a mental approach. But whatever it is, we've just got to keep trying to work on it because this ball control is like nothing I've ever seen.
Speaking of feeding the post, I thought McQuatch and Carlton Bragg kind of got on the same page, and there were some nice post feeds.
Yeah, it's been great in practice for a few weeks, and that same pass that we couldn't deliver at San Diego State, we watched the film yesterday and was just like, guys, we've been great at this for weeks, this high-low action, why can't we execute this here? This doesn't make any sense. And fortunately tonight we were all on the money with it. I thought our high-low game was really good, and that's hopefully where it's going to go going forward because we practice it a lot and it looks great in practice. We've just got to be able to execute it in games, and I thought tonight we were good there.
I know some opponents do things better than others, but it does look great when you look down with this Lobo team and you see that you win the rebounding battle 43-26 and you out-rebound them on the offensive glass 9-4. Now, they didn't shoot it well. That leads to more boards, but you have to be pleased with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily a team that sends a lot of guys to the glass, so that worked in our favor. This matchup was kind of good for us. Banks is a quick little athletic guard, but we really just kind of said, you know what, we'll make him shoot. And so he wasn't maybe the problem that other quick athletic guards have been for us. And outside of him, that's really the only speed they have on the perimeter. So when we get matched up with teams that don't have that quick, low to the ground speed on the perimeter, our defense looks a heck of a lot better. And I thought it did tonight, obviously.
Starting man-to-man, and I was telling Rob off the air, when we played, I always like to start man-to-man and get your juices going and get your feet moving. And then adjusting back to a zone. Did you like the flow of being able to change up from man-to-man to a zone?
We probably played, I'm going to ballpark, 6 to 7 possessions of zone, and it was okay. It was really just us coming out of timeouts thinking, look, they're going to go pick on Quach with 3 fouls, or they're going to go to this. Let's try and get through a possession without something really bad happening here. And James is such a good player. Coming out of timeouts, they're running things for him. So we try to just mix it up a little bit there. And you're right. I mean, I think for this matchup, for this game in particular, we need to get some pop back on that end of the floor, and the man-to-man tonight was definitely there for that.
I was fortunate to be at a couple of practices this week as you prepared for Wyoming, and I know you had some rules for guarding James tonight. How did your team do with that? And you held him to 12 points.
Pretty good. We actually followed the rules of him very well. Thompson, not so much. Those two were really our keys to the scout. I think they paid a lot of attention to James, especially considering what he's done here. And the Thompson ones we slipped on a few times. He's a very good player as well, and we did let him loose for some shots that, maybe ordinarily would have gone down that didn't tonight. But overall, I can't be too harsh on the defensive effort. I asked for 40 deflections. We had those. We did a good job in a lot of areas. I thought there were some 50-50 balls on defense we should have really pursued a little harder than got. But at the end of the day, the story from this game, like I just told them now, we have to take care of the basketball, and it has to improve in that area as far as not giving teams those kinds of points.
Well, offensively, you had 6 guys in double figures.
Yeah.
And that's got to be, you got to feel good about that. And then the play of McGee and Malawach, those two kind of coming into their own.
Yeah.
McQuatch not really scoring the ball well and being able to connect today.
Yeah, he finished late. We left him in the game on purpose, thinking maybe we can get him going a little bit, because at one point, obviously, from the last game to this game, he's just been a bit of a funk out there. So, we thought maybe leaving him in there late might get a couple to get him energized, and he made some, and hopefully that'll carry over for him.
That was big. He made his last 3.
He did.
He did.
I
think we were talking, it was an 0 for 8 stretch there. So,
yeah.
Okay, so the 0 from the field for Quach in the last one. Before that, the first 4 games of conference play, he was averaging double figures, but the turnover number for Quach, that was high.
It is.
We saw a couple times, we talked about Hunter and I, where we could see that he recognized that the finish wasn't there. He would stop sort of halfway down the rail, like near the block, and turn and assess.
Yeah.
And sometimes it led to open jump shots. Sometimes it led to a layup. He did a better job of that tonight?
He did early. The one you're talking about, he stopped, he threw it out to Vance, he got a bucket, he went baseline, he kicked it out to Tate. Like, he did some things. It's when you can see it in his eyes. I'm going to go score. And it's not there. And there's multiple guys, and it's too late, and he's left his feet, and it's not going to go well from there. And we don't quite have necessarily, hopefully, I think today we got back to a little bit, just the sharing of the basketball and the movement and all that, and hopefully that'll open it up. But quite frankly, this year we haven't had enough of that, to where last year he was used to just driving and we were kicking and moving, and this year there's just a lot more standing around, and that's something that hopefully we can improve on to not only improve his game, but everybody's game.
Hunter and I have talked about this also. I know you and I have as well, too, and sometimes I wonder, what's Coach Weir thinking? There was a stretch there where it seemed like, and Hunter mentioned it, the ball did stop moving a bit, but a lot of times it was for a wide-open 3. It was early in the shot clock, but it was a wide-open good look. What do you think about those, and sometimes does that stagnate the rhythm that the offense
tonight
has developed?
We wanted to shoot them. We told them, our number one thing tonight was running. They don't have a lot of bodies, and we just thought, if we ran them, that over the course of the game we could wear them down for both ends of the floor. So I told them, if you run and we're all running the floor and you take a bad shot in transition, I can live with that if we're running properly. Once we get into the half, you got to be careful with it. Let's make good shots. Let's play good offense. Don't take a selfish shot within our half-court offense. But tonight I told them, look, man, if you're really running the court, we need to run and get that ball up on the rim and just push it down their throat a little bit, hopefully from a conditioning perspective and just the depth of both of our rosters.
We noticed Drew didn't play tonight. Is Drew Drinnen doing okay?
Yeah, just an injury that we're kind of working through. It's kind of evolving a little bit. It was what we thought was a certain injury. It may be a concussion. We're just kind of working through that right now.
Okay, and then Keith McGee now, 3 consecutive games, 20-plus minutes. Talk about his play.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, when he's got it, he's got a little Antono Jackson to him. Like, this could turn out well, and this could not turn out well. And it's a little fearful at times. But sometimes when you look up and you look at the overall production with him, it's like, you know what? Okay, and Antono was a lot like that last year. And there are times you're going to have to live with things where you just want to, grab the next person next to you because he's doing more, less harm than good. You know what I'm saying? So I think as long as he can kind of continue to do that, he's a young kid, he's a sophomore. Hopefully he'll continue to grow and be a good player for us.
And you could see it on his face. He's got the smile, he's got the bounce in his step, and it's just the energy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's turned around here in the last couple of games.
For sure.
Corey Manigault didn't appear in the second half. They were a bit smaller than some other teams.
No, same thing it's always been. Corey's just continuing to work on, appropriate responses to substitutions or feedback or whatever it may be. And I'm just going to kind of keep trying to coach him the best way I know how.
All right, Coach. It is odd to see UNLV twice in the span of 2 weeks, but you get them on the road.
For sure. We'll start on them tonight. At this point, we were just all in on Wyoming here for a few days, and now we'll start on trying to get ready for Vegas.
Congratulations. Nice
Thanks,
win.
Coach.
Good job.
Thank you.
Lobo head coach Paul Weir. We pause. 83-53. Lobos over Wyoming. Back after this. Lobo basketball from Learfield. Back at Dreamstyle Arena, the Pit, in your Lobo basketball postgame show. New Mexico 83, Wyoming 53 is your final.
Time to select our P&M Reliable Player of the Game. This was a real tough one tonight, but in the final analysis, we decided your game changer for New Mexico this evening was Lobo Vance Jackson. Jackson, top of the circle. Hesitation, bounce past Thompson. Lean in, right-hand scoop is good. Vance with 13 points, 10 boards, 4 assists. He's doing it all in 30 minutes of work. Yeah, stat sheet filler tonight, and I love that little rocker step dribble that he gave Thompson. They got the big guy backing up and then took him off the bounce. The P&M Reliable Player of the Game is Vance Jackson, delivering reliable energy to you 24/7. P&M, committed community partners, adding cleaner resources, including more solar and wind energy, working to build a strong, sustainable energy future for New Mexico. Talk to us at pnm.com, where you can manage your account and learn how to save money on your electric bill. We pause. Lobos 83, Wyoming 53. Lobo basketball from Learfield. Back for a final time on your Lobo basketball post-game show. The Albuquerque Downs Racetrack and Casino is your home for winning entertainment, including simulcast racing. And momentarily, Adam Deal filling in for J.G. Buck. We'll take your phone calls live at the Downs and on the radio here locally in the Duke City. Big thank you to my engineer and producer back in the studios of Learfield, Derek Crawford. My on-site engineer is Michael Carlisle, as always, does a bang-up job. And the Lobos have the 83-53 win as they knock off Wyoming in Dreamstyle Arena, the Pit. Well, Hunter, a pretty comprehensive performance for UNM here tonight, and a much-needed victory after dropping 3 in a row in league.
Unfortunately, Wyoming wasn't able to put their best team on the court, but New Mexico was able to achieve the things that Coach Weir wanted them to, and that was to pick up the effort defensively, get 40 deflections. They got that done. So on to Vegas.
Yeah, on to Vegas, and still a lot to clean up. You know, plenty to look at on that tape to make sure that they get it right. And
clean up those turnovers,
Yeah, just one final thought. When you look at the turnovers that New Mexico commits, and now that's 3 consecutive games with at least 17 of them. The Lobos had 19 tonight. What are the things that you focus on that create most of them?
Well, I think, once they got the lead of about 25 points, they got a little lax, a little comfortable with their passes. You're going back to Nevada, the Nevada game where they only had 9 turnovers. They took care of it. I mean, there was a sense of, taking care of it throughout the 40 minutes of play. And so I think it's mental, it's concentration. And I think, and I'm sure Coach has tried, running at 5 a.m. and all those things to clean it up. But, it's a tough thing. If you focus on it, you've got to have some kind of consequence for the guys that are turning it over. But you don't want them to be gun shy, because I kind of saw that with McQuatch Malawach in previous games where, he's turning over so much.
He's not willing to attempt to make the pass.
Exactly. And he did today. He continued to make those passes. He continued to make the attempts, and he connected with Carlton Bragg, and that looked good. I mean, that's where I thought the Lobos got better today. If there was any one area that they improved in offensively, it was the feeding the post.
They assisted on 20 of their 28 field goals, and that's an indication of that. 6 Lobos in double figures, led by Bragg with 16. You had 14 for McGee. You had the double-double for Vance Jackson, 13 and 10. He also dropped 5 dimes. You had 12 points for Mathis, 10 for Kuiper, and 11 for Malawach. Malawach made his last 3s. That's going to do it for us. For my broadcast partner, Hunter Green, I'm Robert Portnoy. Adam Deal up next with your Lobo basketball post-game call-in show, the Overtime Call-in Show from the Albuquerque Downs Racetrack and Casino. New Mexico improves to 9-9 overall, and now 3-3 in Mountain West Conference play. Final score for the final time tonight: Lobos 83, Wyoming 53. We'll talk to you from Vegas next, when the Lobos will take on UNLV on Tuesday, 8 o'clock tip-off, airtime 7:30 with the Lobo basketball pregame show. So long, everybody. You've been listening to Lobo basketball from Learfield.